Good evening. Tonight, we're covering the troubling story of Mohammed Shahzeb Khan, a 20-year-old Pakistani national accused of plotting a mass shooting at a Jewish center in Brooklyn, New York. Khan, who also goes by the name Shahzeb Khan, was arrested earlier this month in Canada before he could cross the border into the United States. Authorities allege that his actions were motivated by support for ISIS, aiming to carry out a hate-fueled attack. The investigation reveals that Khan started sharing ISIS propaganda in November 2023. Using encrypted messaging apps, he communicated with individuals he believed to be fellow extremists. In reality, he was speaking with undercover law enforcement officers. During these conversations, Khan detailed plans to target Jewish communities in New York, specifying October 7th or October 11th as potential dates. October 7th would have marked the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel, while October 11th coincides with Yom Kippur, one of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar. This choice of dates, authorities suggest, indicates an attempt to maximize the symbolic impact of the attack. Khan also shared photos of the intended target, a specific Jewish center in Brooklyn, and discussed the weapons he planned to use, including AR-style rifles and ammunition. He even outlined his intended route for crossing the US-Canada border, emphasizing his commitment to carrying out the attack. On September 4th, Khan attempted to travel toward the United States but was intercepted near Ormstown, Quebec, just 12 miles from the border. His arrest was the result of close collaboration between Canadian and U.S. law enforcement agencies. Attorney General Merrick Garland praised this joint effort, emphasizing that all communities, including Jewish ones, should feel safe from hate-driven violence. Khan now faces charges of attempting to provide material support to a terrorist organization, which could carry a sentence of up to 20 years if convicted. The case underscores ongoing concerns about the influence of online extremism. Authorities have revealed that Khan frequently used social media and encrypted apps to promote ISIS propaganda and connect with like-minded individuals. In court documents, investigators described how Khan's digital footprint linked him to the alias Shahzeb Khan. They matched photos and phone numbers from social media accounts to confirm his identity. These accounts played a critical role in uncovering his plans and preventing the attack. Currently, Khan is being held in a provincial prison in Montreal while awaiting extradition to the United States. Canadian authorities arrested him under the Extradition Act after concerns were raised about his risk of fleeing to Pakistan, where extradition agreements are challenging to enforce. Interestingly, it has been reported that Khan entered Canada in June 2023 on a student visa. However, the address he provided was later found to be the office of an immigration firm, not a residential location. This raises further questions about how he managed to enter and reside in Canada undetected for months while allegedly plotting the attack. The case highlights not only the persistent threat posed by extremist ideologies, but also the importance of international cooperation in combating terrorism. Law enforcement agencies in Canada and the United States have worked together to prevent what could have been a devastating tragedy. As we await further legal proceedings, one thing is clear. This case is a sobering reminder of the dangers posed by online radicalization and the critical need for vigilance in protecting vulnerable communities.
Death to Canada! Death to the United States! And death to Israel!
Critics, including the federal Conservatives, saying the Liberal government must take action.
Samadoun has been fomenting these violent and horrific protests and mob action.
This case of Mohammed Shahzeb Khan is more than just an isolated incident. It's part of a larger narrative that reveals significant vulnerabilities in Canada's immigration and border security policies. The fact that Khan, a 20-year-old Pakistani national, was able to enter Canada on a student visa, provide false residential information, and operate under the radar while allegedly plotting a mass shooting on U.S. soil is a glaring failure of the current system. It raises pressing questions about how effectively Canada screens its immigrants and monitors individuals who may pose a threat to public safety. The NDP-Liberal coalition government, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, has been criticized for its lax immigration policies and lack of stringent oversight. Supporters of the government tout Canada's open and inclusive immigration system as a symbol of humanitarian leadership, but stories like this one expose the dangerous gaps in enforcement and accountability. The failure to thoroughly vet Khan's background, track his activities, or address the misuse of his visa represents a broader inability to balance compassion with security. For years, critics have argued that this coalition government prioritizes optics over outcomes. Policies that emphasize increasing immigration targets and reducing barriers for entry are not inherently flawed, but they must be paired with robust mechanisms to prevent abuse and mitigate security risks. The Khan case is a stark example of how these safeguards have fallen short, endangering not just Canadians, but also citizens of neighboring countries like the United States. This incident is likely to be a key talking point for former President Donald Trump as he campaigns for a potential return to the White House. Trump has long been a vocal critic of Canada's immigration policies, arguing that lax regulations on the northern border pose a security threat to the United States. In his previous presidency, Trump championed stricter immigration controls, enhanced vetting procedures, and border security measures, both on the southern border with Mexico and increasingly on the northern border with Canada. A second Trump presidency would almost certainly bring renewed pressure on Canada to tighten its immigration policies and improve its border security. Trump's America First agenda hinges on the idea that U.S. national security cannot be compromised by the failings of its neighbors. From his perspective, the Khan case underscores a failure of the Trudeau government to ensure that individuals entering Canada do not pose a threat to American lives. It's not hard to imagine Trump leveraging this story as a rallying cry to demand stricter oversight from Canada or even impose unilateral measures to secure the U.S.-Canada border. It's also worth noting the broader implications of this story. The Khan case isn't an isolated event. Canada has seen other security failures in recent years that raise similar concerns. For instance, there have been instances of individuals with ties to extremist groups entering Canada or radicalizing while in the country. These cases often point to systemic issues in immigration enforcement, intelligence sharing, and counterterrorism efforts. For the Trudeau government and its NDP partners, this story should serve as a wake-up call. Maintaining public trust requires more than rhetoric about inclusivity and open borders. It demands concrete actions to ensure that the system works for everyone's safety. Strengthening background checks, improving information sharing between Canadian and international intelligence agencies, and enforcing stricter visa regulations are just a few steps that could prevent cases like Khan's in the future. In the end, this isn't just about politics. It's about the safety of citizens on both sides of the border. If Canada doesn't take significant steps to address these systemic issues, it risks not only its own security but also its relationship with its closest ally, the United States. And with Trump poised to make immigration and border security a cornerstone of his campaign, the political and diplomatic stakes are higher than ever. The question now is whether the NDP-Liberal coalition government will acknowledge these failures and take the necessary steps to correct them, or whether this will become yet another story that fuels calls for stricter immigration policies and border security under a potential Trump presidency. Only time will tell, but one thing is clear: the costs of inaction are far too high.
Death to Canada! Death to the United States! And death to Israel!
Justin Trudeau just returned from his first official visit to India. The trip was supposed to strengthen ties, but it was, by all accounts, a disaster. Now, that's just not me saying that. A Washington Post headline actually read, "Trudeau's India trip is a total disaster." Critics allege that the trip was more of an extended vacation since Trudeau met with almost no Indian government officials, but he did find time to take a few pictures. He didn't exactly get the warmest of receptions. A CNN headline read, "Justin Trudeau snubbed by Indian government on official trip." Prime Minister Modi didn't even meet Trudeau at the airport. Instead, he was met by the junior Minister of Agriculture. In Canada, our Parliamentary Secretary of Agriculture is Jean-Claude Poisson. I don't even know who that is. But if they sent Jean-Claude Poisson to pick me up at the airport, I'd feel snubbed. Normally, when the Prime Minister travels, people only talk about his socks. He sure fixed that. Some people felt he overdid it on the traditional Indian dress, and by some people, I mean everyone. For example, this is how Stephen Harper and Jean Chrétien dressed when they visited India. Justin, he went for a more on-the-nose approach. One Indian headline said that Trudeau was dressed too Indian even for an Indian. It'd be like if Prime Minister Modi came to Canada dressed like this. Crazy. Trudeau's visit was the most embarrassing thing to happen to India since Apu. Trudeau was there to sell Canada, and he did his best to tell them about our country like only our Prime Minister can.
And we celebrated the 100th anniversary of Canadian Confederation.
Actually, it's 150 years old, Justin. Not his best work. He did come back with a trade deal, however. Here he is announcing it.
We're able to announce today over 5,000 new jobs in Canada and over $1 billion of investment in Canada.
Wow, that's pretty good, right? $1 billion invested in Canada, that makes the whole trip worth it.
The Prime Minister actually misspoke there. $250 million to Canada, $750 million to India.
Oops. So India is investing $1 billion in Canada. Canada is investing $750 million in India. Well, same thing. At least he didn't do any embarrassing dancing. At this point, you'd think it couldn't get any worse. Well, you'd be wrong. It was revealed that a Liberal MP had invited a convicted attempted murderer to a reception in India. This man, pictured with Sophie Trudeau, was convicted in 1986 of attempting to assassinate an Indian cabinet minister on Vancouver Island. Some world leaders worry about assassins overseas, but not Justin. He brings his own. So after being ignored, Trudeau was finally getting some attention from the Indian press.
Mr. Trudeau, I want to ask one question. Why did you invite a Khalistani terrorist for your reception?
Eventually, Prime Minister Modi did show up to hug Justin. Of course he did. It was the only way for Modi to get him to go back home. And look at the guy in the back. His hand is already on the car door handle. Hey, Justin, your Uber's here. Time to go. Justin's trip to India seemed like a panicked, desperate attempt to court Sikh voters back home in Canada. I wonder why that was. Justin, if you want to woo Canadian voters, the best place to do that is Canada.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to support our work, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep creating content like this. See you in the next video.